Welcome to the Great Smokies. Today we are exploring the most popular national park in the United States. We're going to be seeing some of the top sites such as Clingmans Dome, Cades Cove, and hopefully maybe, cross our fingers, some wildlife. But before we start our journey, don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's begin our journey. When you come to the Great Smokies, there's two main visitor centers. One is the Sugarlands, which is near Gatlinburg, Tennessee, and the other one is Oconaluftee, which is near Cherokee, North Carolina. It's a great place to start. You can get a visitor map and also find out tips from the rangers, weather conditions, and of course, a parking pass. Now, we're starting at Oconaluftee, which they have a farm museum, which we're going to see what it was like to be back in the mountains in the early 1900s and 1800s. The park is so beautiful, but unfortunately, a lot of it is closed to pets. And we do have Poppy on our trip, but there is one trail that is open to pets, which is the Oconaluftee River Trail. Unfortunately, we were told that that was closed due to aggressive elk activity. So we're going to avoid that. That way we can respect the nature and wildlife and go to the farm museum. So let's venture this way. Really cool about this section of the park is it has a huge Cherokee influence, since we're obviously right near Cherokee, the town, and the Indian reservation. A lot of the signs are written in Cherokee. The name of the river, Oconaluftee, is a Cherokee name. So it's really cool to see the influence and the cultural impact that they've had on this section in the park. I'll tell you what, the chickens add to the authenticity of a farm. I mean, it wouldn't be a farm without the chickens.
All right, John, where are we starting?
I was going to say the meat house.
Okay.
Obviously the most important house. Back in the day, they didn't have refrigeration, so they had to use a meat house where they could smoke it, store it. A lot of times they would use salt to preserve the meat as well. That way during the wintertime they would have food that they could eat.
Apples were a staple.
That's interesting.
So much more than meat.
Well, they talked about corn in the museum inside the center. Like apparently the ground was like they grew a lot of corn in this area.
Can we talk about apples since we're
Sure.
filming apples?
So this is the apple house. They grew a lot of apples in the area. And obviously, just like the name suggests, they stored apples here.
And they were a staple.
They were a staple.
And so rainy.
Yeah. Not only would they eat them, they would also barter for other goods too with them. So let's go see what else is around the corner. Sorghum cane apparently was a crop that they used to grow here as well to produce molasses, which they would use the mill to squeeze out the juice. The juice was then boiled over the furnace, and then it was turned into a thick, dark, stingy molasses, you know.
Stingy?
That's the words they used on here.
Stringy?
Oh, yeah, sorry, stringy. 10 gallons of juice yielded about 1 gallon of molasses. What's really cool about all these buildings is that they're original. However, they were not on the visitor center property, but they were originally on the park boundaries properties at some point and then transplanted here. So they really took good care in trying to preserve them in its original state and put it in a location that everyone could enjoy. This lovely sign is a reminder to all guests and park visitors that you should leave the park as it is. You shouldn't be, carving your name or vandalizing something that's historical. You want to keep it in mint condition. Or as this lovely sign is a reminder that you could face a fine, potentially spend time in jail as well. So don't be like Bob.
And if you had a spark go into the bellow, boom, you got a bomb basically. So that constant flow keeps the air and everything blowing out and into your fire. And then we cheated a little bit and used a match for our heat and our spark. But you can rub two sticks together. During this time, late 1800s, early 1900s, people didn't have matches, so that was a good way to start the fire.
Seeing the museum is a great way to see what life was like back in the 1800s. Before even the national parks took over this land, what was mountain life? What were the thriving communities like before they had to leave when the park took over? But it's super cool, super interesting. You get an idea of how did people live. So it's a great stroll. Takes maybe, I don't know, 15 minutes, depends how much time you want to read. So I would recommend doing it if you're stopping off at the visitor center as well.
John, what did we say?
Elk and more elk. Probably Andrea's favorite animal next to bears and moose.
I haven't seen a moose.
We've been talking about seeing a moose forever.
Don't tease me.
Today we're exploring the western part of Tennessee in the Great Smokies. And in particular, we're in Cades Cove of the park, which is known for bear activity and bear sightings. So we're really excited to see some wildlife activity. It's even hustling here as we saw a bear earlier. So follow us as we explore Cades Cove. Cades Cove is one of the top places to see in the park. And what makes it so unique was it used to be a vibrant community with farms, people, and that's one of the reasons why there's roads that you can travel and enjoy nature. But there are some buildings that are still even standing today from the early 1800s all the way to the 1900s. So we're hoping to check that out. Oh, one thing that's really cool is that they closed the road to cars and vehicles on Wednesday, so you can enjoy the whole area on foot. So let's go explore. It looks like we're coming up on the John Oliver house, so let's go check it out. The John Oliver place was constructed in 1818 and it was one of the first houses built in this area. So if you can just picture it, houses like this would be all over Cades Cove. And it's just crazy to imagine because as you enter the park, it's just all forest. So it's completely changed since the park took over the property. But we're really fortunate that they were able to keep a house like this in pristine order. Let's get up close and see what it looks like. It's just remarkable how everything was made by hand. Everything from the shingles to the floor, John Oliver had to make. The John Oliver place is one of many different structures that you can still see, but we're going to continue on the road and see what else it has to offer. One of the great things about Cades Cove is the wildlife, especially the bears. But it's also one of the biggest disadvantages to the area. It's an 11-mile loop, very scenic. You also get to see historic homes. But anytime there's wildlife, since it's a one-way lane, people stop and obviously take pictures. And that creates what we call a bear jam, which is just a line of cars for a few miles because everyone's stopping to take their photos. So you could be backed up for like an hour or two, at least that's what the ranger had indicated to us. So we're crossing our fingers. At the end of this bear jam, we see some wildlife, right, Andrea?
Yes, but we're using this to eat lunch. So
Yeah.
double purpose, having a picnic.
Yeah, so we're having a picnic in the car and taking in the sights. But Let's cross our fingers and let's see this wildlife.
Hope there's an animal.
Yeah. Halfway around the loop, you'll hit the Cades Cove Visitor Center. And obviously there's park rangers, gift store, and restroom. And it's bustling with activity as visitors stop halfway between the loop. Also at the loop, I'm really excited to see the mill, the barn, the house, the blacksmith shop, because this used to be an area that was a vibrant mountain community. Wow, I mean, it looked ancient, and you can see the age on this mill. The only building that's completely original is the mill itself. Blacksmith shop was constructed by the Park Service. The barn and the other buildings were relocated from other areas of the park.
Hey John, what's the most important thing when you have a mill?
Water. Probably lots of water is very important for a mill. And as you can see, there's definitely abundance right here. So this was a perfect spot to have a mill. Great Smoky Mountains are famous for having lots of bears. In fact, in the park itself, they have nearly 2,000 black bears. That's almost 2 bears per square mile. So obviously, there's a good chance you're probably going to see a bear in the park. And since we're talking about bears, we should bring up safety. It's recommended you stay about 50 feet away, maybe take a picture. Don't be trying to take a selfie. And obviously, don't feed the bears. That's very important. Oh, this is why we do a video, so Andrea can torture me.
You could do it.
See, I'm not the only one. Listen, swimming holes are a great way to cool off in the summer because it gets super hot here. If you have your swimsuit, you could really go swimming, but Andrea better be doing this with me. That's all I've got to say. Oh! 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 It's a little chilly, but we'll probably feel super refreshing. But they're all over the park. Really wonderful if you haven't gathered that from my expression. Swimming holes are so popular. You can find some of them at the Sinks, Metcalf Bottoms, Midnight Hole, and as you can see behind me, pretty much anywhere you can access the river. But just be mindful of being safe and courteous, and of course, be mindful of the wildlife. We decided to make a quick stop to Laurel Falls, as it's supposed to be very beautiful, but man, oh man, you need a reminder of how packed and popular this park is. This is the spot to be. It is pure chaos just to park your vehicle, and of course the trails are very crowded, but we're hoping the falls are worth it, so stay tuned for that. We made it to Laurel Falls, the big highlight of the trail. Probably took a little bit longer than we anticipated, even though it's 1.3 miles. The view is just absolutely stunning. And of course, the story of this whole trip, crowds, crowds, and more crowds, so it's very popular. You definitely want to get here early or later to avoid them. But as you can see, some people are taking a little bit of a dip to cool off. Maybe Andrea will be brave enough, but she's shaking her head, so I doubt it. But maybe next time. We are now venturing on one of the top sites in Great Smoky Mountains, Clingmans Dome, and it has been an adventure getting up here. It's super cloudy, which I guess lives up to the nickname of Great Smokies, but we're gonna venture and see a sunrise, so let's hit the trail. This is our lovely view from Clingmans Dome. Was it worth it getting up at 4 a.m.? I would say yes to avoid crowds. I wish it was a little bit more sunny and less cloudy. So this view would be the eastern view. If it was not cloudy, you could see Mount Mitchell, which is the highest mountain east of the Mississippi and the highest peak along the Appalachian Trail.
It's majestic.
It is. It is very beautiful. It's like a Bob Ross painting come to life. I can just see the mountains.
Yeah.
Even waking up at 4 a.m., Clingmans Dome still has a lot of people. The weather can be very unpredictable, so you definitely want to check the weather in advance, but hopefully you can see a beautiful sunrise or sunset or less clouds like we have today. But Clingmans Dome is the highest peak in Tennessee as well as the park, and it's at over 6,600 feet in elevation. So on a nice, beautiful day, you can see a great view of North Carolina and Tennessee.
Maybe what we need to do is come back a little bit later.
Maybe. Yeah. Maybe we'll come back later, but that would be fighting the crowds and probably being in a bear jam, potentially. People jam. Well, we had very ambitious plans today. We were going to go to some other overlooks and a couple hikes, but Mother Nature can be very unpredictable, and it is pouring, so we left Clingmans Dome just in time before that happened. But in the meantime, we're going to enjoy our breakfast here instead of being on the trail, and then reevaluate our plans for the day. Cheers. Just going down a mile or two from Clingmans Dome, it's so much more clear, and you can actually see the mountains and the clouds just coming out of the forest. Unfortunately, the weather's still not cooperating with us, so we're going to try to see what we can. Newfound Gap is a great stopping point in between Sugarlands and Oconaluftee visitor centers, and what's even really cool is that you're in between two states, Tennessee and North Carolina, so you can experience two states in one park here, but it has spectacular views and it's a great stopping point. If you're wondering how the Great Smoky Mountains got their name, I mean, you can just see the smoke come from the mountains. The Cherokee call this the land of the blue smoke. And after a rainstorm like we had, you can see a lot of the clouds come up. But also when it's prime growing season, there's so much vegetation here that there's so much moisture that comes out, and you can see the smoke and clouds just come out of the forest. I know, we had promised to go back to Clingmans Dome, but we made a slight change of plans. We found this hidden gem in the park called Deep Creek, which is close to Bryson City, near our Airbnb, and we definitely wanted to check it out. Obviously, super famous for tubing, and of course, swimming, which I know Andrew was thinking maybe we would have a chance to do that, but we're running a little bit short of time, but we're gonna hit one of the hikes and see a beautiful waterfall. So let's go hit the trail. Smile. You're in the tree. Janny Wank is a beautiful waterfall. Andrew thinks it's better than Laurel Falls, but I don't know. Like, if we didn't have as many people at Laurel Falls, I think Laurel Falls would have been the winner. But you can put your comments below which falls you think is better. And as you can tell, it's raining. This is why we did not go back to Clingmans Dome. So we're going to try to, I don't know, bear out the weather, decide whether we should go back or see another falls. So we'll check back in with our decision. Deep Creek is really great. I mean, the hiking trails that you have here, you basically have them to yourself, which is amazing. Unlike Laurel Falls or some of the other waterfalls in the main park, you're going to be jammed shoulder to shoulder on the trail. Now, there are 3 waterfalls on the loop. We only were able to do one because, you know, Mother Nature with rain. But they all look spectacular, at least from little photos we've seen. But it's a short hike, maybe a mile, mile and a half, 2 at the most. But it's a great day hike and very much, I would say, a hidden gem in the park that you want to check out. Coming to the Great Smoky Mountains has been an amazing experience. Andrea and I enjoyed everything. The park is super family friendly and there is so much to do. Everything from Clingmans Dome, swimming holes, and of course seeing the wildlife. But we have so many adventures planned in Western North Carolina, so stay tuned for those adventures. And don't forget to subscribe and like the video as well. But until next time, keep on exploring. I think in some spas it's considered a treatment or part of a foot massage, if I remember correctly.
Right, to have fish.
Yeah, just nibble at your dead skin or fungus, whatever you have. I mean, hopefully you don't have that. Hello, butterfly, wherever you are. It's hard to see. It's right above my head. I think I may have made a friend. Sorghum cane. Sorghum cane. Sorghum. 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 Sorghum cane. Sorghum. You're just messing with me.